Hello everyone, Kirk Hamilton here with just a quick note about the episode you were about to listen to. This is a Final Fantasy VII spoiler cast, aka Beanscast, that we recorded a couple of weeks ago and released into the Maximum Fun bonus content feed. Ordinarily, these types of bonus episodes are just for Maximum Fun members, but for this first one, we decided to put it into the main feed a little bit later so that you could all hear it. If you want to find out more about how to support us making Triple Click and support Maximum Fun as such a great listener-supported network, go to MaximumFun.org/join. All right, on with the Beanscast.
I'm Maddy Myers.
I'm Jason Schreier.
And I'm Kirk Hamilton. And here we are for our first Triple Click Beanscast, which is our name for a spoiler cast. Because, well, should I explain this? I guess I'm going to explain.
Yeah, tell the story.
I'm going to explain where Beanscast comes from. So my 9-year-old niece apparently does not say spoilers. She does not use the word spoilers, and I don't know if she's familiar with the term, and instead she says spill the beans. So instead of spoiling someone on something, you say that you've spilled the beans. I am quite taken with this, as I believe are the two of you, as a way of describing spilling the secrets of a story or talking about what happens in the end. She also calls people who spill the beans are called spillers. And you don't want to be a spiller in general on our podcast, but we decided that since we're going to be doing these bonus spoiler casts for people about games, each month, mostly for members, though this one eventually will go out to everybody, we decided that we would call them Beanscasts because it's a good name.
They're full of beans.
And they're full of beans. They're full of beans.
They're delicious. They give you gas.
They do. We're going to engage in some beans talk, and I'm very excited to talk about the game that we're going to be talking about, which is, of course, Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Of course. We've all beaten it. Here we go.
The beans are about to be spilled.
Should we at least say that we're going to spill the beans on Remake and then later we'll spill the beans on the original Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through the whole game starting from the very beginning, and we'll talk through the story. And then at the end, once we hit the ending of the remake, we will also spoil the original Final Fantasy VII, which includes the entire game, not just the parts in Midgar in which the remake takes place. We're going to spoil all of the original Final Fantasy VII.
We will warn you.
So we're going to talk about, from the beginning here, we will talk about things that happen at the end of FF7 Remake. Like, there's not going to be a point in the middle of this episode where then we talk about the ending of FF7 Remake.
Right.
So if you haven't played FF7 Remake and don't want to be spoiled on it, don't listen to any of this.
Right.
Like, we're going to immediately get into it. And
beans will be spilled. Beans.
We're going to give our impressions, and we're going to talk about the end.
Yeah, also play the game. It's a good game.
It's great.
Go check it out.
Go play it.
But the Final Fantasy VII, the original 1997 game, that will also be spoiled in its entirety, but that only in the second half.
That will wait until later.
And the reason this is so complicated will become clear to you once you get to that part of the show. Blame Remake for being the way that it is, honestly.
Well, I kind of love it, but we'll get to that.
It's great.
All right. Without further ado, let's get through the game. So Final Fantasy VII Remake, of course, is a 2020 remake of a 1997 video game. It tells the story of Cloud, a mercenary who says he used to be part of an organization called Soldier. The remake is part one of an entire series. We don't know how many parts there are going to be, but this one takes place, and basically it takes the first 5 hours of the original game and expands them into like this 40-hour extravaganza.
40 hours?
And the game starts off as Cloud is conscripted to join this group called Avalanche, which is run by a guy named Barrett. Although in the remake, it's actually a huge organization and it has a bunch of cells, and Barrett is
an HQ.
The original game is just like Barrett's little crew, as far as we know.
As far as we know,
But in this, there's like that's one of the most mind-boggling things about this game. But anyway, so Cloud joins, and the game starts off with Cloud kind of reluctantly, stoically joining Barrett and Jesse and Wedge and Biggs, who are the other members, the other fun little members of Avalanche, to blow up a Mako reactor, which is a Shinra. Shinra is the organization that controls Midgar. They're kind of like a mix between an evil corporation and an evil government entity because they control everything, the media, the energy, blah, blah, blah. And they use these reactors to extract this Mako energy from the planet and convert it into electricity. And so Avalanche is going to blow up this reactor. And that's where you start off the game, and you're introduced to Cloud, you're introduced to Barrett, who is this walking stereotype who has a gun for an arm and is pretty cool.
We can talk about that, I guess. I mean, Barrett is like noted for being one of the prominent Black characters in video games and being famous for that, but people have a lot of mixed feelings about him because even in the original iteration, people had mixed feelings about him. And it's kind of sad to me that those mixed feelings are going to continue with this version because Bo Billingsley's voice acting, I mean, he's a great voice actor, you know, famous for Cowboy Bebop, etc. But the voice he's chosen to do here is just playing on the exact same stereotypes that the original game played on. It's like one of the examples of something that isn't changed, and you just still have this like tough black guy character who seems like a stereotype across the board. And
well, it's more than just tough.
Bad.
It's like angry, cursing, like very much like
and threatening other people. Although there are some changes they've made, like when you get on the train together as Avalanche, like Barrett is sort of threatening the other people on the train car, but he doesn't hit one of them like he does in the original game. Like there's some subtle things that they do in the mix where I'm like, well, okay, they're at least making Barrett like a little bit less of a hothead. But also when he lectures Cloud about Avalanche's goals, I think the problem with Barrett the whole time, or perhaps the strength of Barrett at the same time, is that he's right. And like he's correct to be as angry as he is, but it's also he's sort of presented as a buffoon for being as angry as he is, and I'm not sure if that was intended on the part of the game. I don't think he should be presented as a buffoon. I think he should be presented as correct because Shinra is destroying the planet, and he is giving all these monologues about how that's happening. But he's right. That's all happening, and it should stop.
Well, so one of the things that's sad is that you don't actually get to see the reason for his anger in this game because that comes up later in the story, like the actual justification behind.
But I mean, even just politically, you get to see some of the reason why he's angry. Sure. You get to see that Shinra is drawing power from this life force that's inside the planet, and you understand enough from that plot scaffolding to be like, this is actually really bad, and it's going to destroy the planet, and that's why this terrorist group is acting out against Shinra, and obviously debating for the entire game about whether their actions are moral or not. I mean, that's Tifa's arc. So
I think that this opening sequence is probably Barrett's toughest moment, only because it's kind of everybody's toughest moment. Like it's a sequence where all of the characters are interacting with one another in a very surface level way because they don't know each other very well. It isn't until we get to Tifa, which we haven't quite gotten to, I guess, in this recap, but that's sort of where an element of depth is introduced, because before that, you've just got Cloud, who's this very taciturn mercenary and seems just out of it and not into this at all, and Barrett, who's just totally at 11, very angry, like you said, just going on and on. He's like giving speeches to nobody in the elevator and stuff, and you're like, what is the deal with this guy? And because they've stretched everything out compared to the original game, you're in that kind of period of the game a lot longer. And so you kind of just have to be there, where I do think that over the course of the game, Barrett and Cloud's relationship is really nice. The way that they come to like each other, the way that their like call outs at the end of fights change, and Cloud's like, we make a pretty good team. And Barrett's like, yeah, we do, don't we? And they're kind of like becoming friends when they really didn't like each other. Like it's kind of elementary stuff, but it's nice the way that it works. And also, I do think that Barrett's performance is interesting. The animation and motion capture of him is great. And there are so many, he carries a lot of the emotion of a lot of the scenes really on his face and just in his body language. And he also has this little girl who's totally this like emotional manipulation device throughout the game. And
that's literally, that's her job. Marlene, the emotional MacGuffin.
Totally.
Yeah. So just moving through. So they blow up the reactor. They wind up splitting ways as they try to escape. As Cloud, you wind up going through the streets of Midgar. You run into Aerith. For the first time, the flower girl. You see the spirits surrounding her that we can get to a little bit later. But
let's talk about it now. Let's talk about this. Like, so we're not going to spoil the like end of Final Fantasy VII, but we should talk about like these same events in Final Fantasy VII, because I think it's important to know that there are significant deviations from the very beginning from Final Fantasy VII.
Because a lot of people don't know that. Like straight up, if this is the first Final Fantasy VII version of it that they're playing, they don't know that these ghosts aren't there in the original game and that they're just a part of Remake.
Right, and this is the first time in the game. So you come upon Aerith, she is like surrounded by these weird phantoms, and there's this whole sequence that just seems out of a different game. Like if you've played Final Fantasy VII at all, you're like, okay, maybe I don't remember this game from 1997, but I don't think this happened, this fight scene in the road with Aerith. And that, at least, I think that the many ways that this game changes Final Fantasy VII which even if you don't know what happens in Final Fantasy VII, I think you know that is true. And we're not spoiling the like big stuff in Final Fantasy VII, but I think that it's worth saying that this game is almost, even from the beginning, not a remake, right? Like the minute this stuff starts happening, that already is new. And of course, it becomes like a meta layer of newness later on. But just the minute that starts happening, it stops feeling like you're playing a remake.
But so that part doesn't matter as much because all you kind of see these ghosts surrounding it. You're like, okay, that's weird. Like, what's the deal with that? But it doesn't actually talk about what's way different and way bigger of a deal is that in the same sequence, you see Sephiroth. And Cloud has this hallucination where he's walking through the fire and like sees Sephiroth, and Sephiroth threatens him and talks about killing his mom. And like, that stuff is like totally new. That's way bigger changes than the Aerith stuff, which the significance
that's what
of
I'm talking about all of these changes. Like I'm saying there's significant changes from the very beginning.
But well, so the significance of the spirits, I haven't had a chance to replay the game, but I really want to, because the spirits, as we know, when we reach the end of the game, of the remake, the spirits they're called Whispers of Fate, and they exist to keep the storyline on track. Essentially, they exist to remake the game. They're like a metaphor for the developers or the fans or whatever who really want to keep the game on track.
They're like the script, like the existing script of the game. Yeah.
And so it's interesting. I don't remember exactly what they were trying to change when they're surrounding Aerith. Maybe Aerith was going to do something and they were trying to keep her in place or something like that.
I think she's trying to leave and they're ensuring she meets Cloud.
Yeah, it could be that
moment.
Yes, it could very well be that. But now looking back at it, every time they appear, they're like ensuring that things happen the way that they happen in the remake. So that's another whole layer on top of this, which is pretty wild. So there's some extra fights in this scene. A lot of this stuff is new. Cloud eventually gets
Can we talk about Sephiroth a little bit?
Sure, yes.
Because he is in this game so much more. And it's like
so much more
to me
than
how much more he's in the game.
Sequence than he is in that.
Yeah, than the Midgar sequence in the original. And that's a huge change, but it just makes the game feel very different, because it's very early on that you learn that Sephiroth is this. Well, first of all, that he killed Cloud's mom, which he just says to Cloud in this hallucination scene. And so just right away, you're like, okay, cool. Like, we know that Cloud is this traumatized character, and we get to learn a little bit about why, which is an interesting choice, because in the original, it takes you a really long time to find out what Cloud's full deal is. But in this game, they just go ahead and tell you at least one major traumatic event that happened to Cloud. And it's also the beginning of what is a potential pattern in this game where Cloud feels like he can't protect a female character. And I talked about this a little bit on like previous Triple Click episodes, but this is like a pretty defining part of who Cloud is and how he defines himself as a man, as a person, is like he needs to be able to protect Tifa. He gets into Soldier because he wants to be able to protect people. His failure to protect his mother and his failure to protect his town is like how he's defining himself as a person. And like that being introduced so early, I had some mixed feelings about it at first. I was kind of like, it's nice that the original takes so long to tell you all of those things, but it's also rough to have you spend so much time with a character who's kind of a dick and not give you at least one reason why he's being such a dick. You know what I mean? Like,
and you get this lostness from him from the very beginning, this sense of like he's scared behind the sort of, he's this total badass with a huge sword who can do all these cool moves. And Jessie kind of exists as the fandom in these early sequences, how she keeps being like, you're so cool, you're so hot, holy shit, look at what you just did. And it's fun just like having a character openly admire you.
She definitely writes fan fiction for Final Fantasy VII.
Yes. And yet he is behind his eyes, you'll see it. And then of course in that first Sephiroth sequence, he's like terrified, and he's always getting these kind of pretty much just getting PTSD flashbacks. Like he just gets hit and this kind of film grain goes over everything. And you see flashes of what, sometimes are scenes of like of FF7, and sometimes are just like things from the future of this game. And he's kind of seeing things from like outside of his realm of existence, or just flashback memories. And you get that he's messed up, and so making it a little bit more explicit, like giving even more information on that, it worked for me anyways. I thought that it made him a much more sympathetic and interesting character from the very beginning.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
Although there is something to be said about like having the shadow of Sephiroth, or like the specter of Sephiroth hanging over you as you go through Midgar, and not actually knowing, because in the original game you don't even find out anything. Sephiroth isn't even mentioned until you get to Shinra HQ, and then suddenly like the president is dead, and there's a trail of blood, and like it's this creepy scene, and then everyone's like,
Yeah.
holy shit, like who is this guy? He's so powerful. Oh my god, like what did he do? And it's got a very different emotional effect. So yeah, let's keep moving through the plot. So you swing into the train. There's like this cool moment. I always enjoyed that moment where like everyone thinks Cloud is dead, and they're like, no, he couldn't be. And then he swings in. And he's like, hey guys. They get to the Sector 7 slums, which is like the HQ of Avalanche. They work out of this bar named Seventh Heaven that Tifa runs. You meet Tifa. Tifa's badass who wears ridiculous clothing. Tifa
and Cloud's childhood friend, and that's
Cloud's
introduced.
childhood friend. Tifa and Cloud have some nice moments. Cloud has an apartment.
Can I throw out there, this is the first time they do something that they really like to do in this game, which is these lingering first person like conversations where when you first meet Tifa, who I'm going to say, like, she's not just ridiculously dressed, like she's like absurd looking. Like she's like one of the most ridiculously good looking characters in the video game. I mean, everybody in this game is, but it's like, dear Lord.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
It's absurd. Yeah. And then the way that they introduce her is this first person camera, and she's looking right into your eyes, and she's like, hello, it's me, the most realistic rendition of Tifa you've ever seen.
And Kirk fell in love then and there.
When it's like, it's a character.
How can you not?
Sure. And it's a character that, like people have been in love with Tifa for decades. And
Icon.
She's an icon, and so they really like to give you these moments of, they do this with Aerith as well. They do it at various points, and it's where you're just having a conversation with, this super high-res, realistic-looking version of a character that used to be all polygons. And it's fun. I enjoy it, like how they really lean into it's very fan-servicey, but not in the creepy way. At least it wasn't for me at all.
Yeah.
It was just like, you're a fan of this, and this is for you. Like, here it is. Look at Tifa. Can you even believe it?
I would say it also it humanizes her, and I would say this is true for Aerith too, and that was something that I thought the original couldn't do because it just didn't have the time or the capacity to animate their facial expressions, and there weren't voice actors to do the like gentle mockery of Cloud that both of these women do throughout the game that makes their feelings for Cloud just more bearable to me, because like also Cloud seems like more of a person in this game because you get so much more time with him, and the sort of love triangle sensation of like, oh, Tifa's interested in Cloud and also Aerith's interested in Cloud, but they're very different people, and like that works so much better for me in this version because you get to know them more.
And their friendship is like really.
Well, we can get to that later.
It's later
but that
in the game,
helps
but
it a lot.
That's a crucial part of it, is that also Tifa and Aerith become friends, and we get to really see that kind of happen in a very deliberate way. So it's like they enjoy each other and this goofy dude that they're with, who they both kind of like, but they all are enjoying one another, and it worked for me.
Totally. But there's such a huge difference between Aerith like saying he in the original game, which you can like interpret so many ways, and which I found deeply irritating. Whereas this version of her, she gets to like laugh gently and just seem like a normal person, like a human, instantly because of that.
I think a lot of it was in the original Japanese script, and it was just lost in translation, unfortunately.
But it's also just a lack of time, Like they can just flesh it out more and also write the characters how they want to write them. And I happen to like how they did it.
So Tifa and Cloud go around the slums. This is when you start doing some of the side quests. Tifa brings up this thing that she talks about, like how you need to build reputation in Cloud, and then that's never brought up again. So let's forget about it.
I don't know. I don't totally agree with that. I think that like the fact that as you do all of those side quests,
it makes it seem like it's going to be a system or something, but it's not. It's just like go do some fetch quests.
But it worked for me narratively, I thought. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be like a reputation system. Thank God there wasn't a friggin' this game doesn't need another system. But I do think that it worked only because a lot of this game is concerned with sort of anchoring Cloud. And to me, that was like one of the most interesting things about it at various points in the story that we'll get to, is like, what is going to tie Cloud to the world? Like, what is going to bring him back? Because he's really far gone at the beginning. And we're given as we've already talked about, he's given a much clearer idea of that and why that is. And then there's just a bunch of steps throughout the course of the game ask this question of like, is this what's going to, like, they're reeling him in slowly back to Earth until we can finally start to get down to find out what's really going on with him, what his history is with Sephiroth, what the deal is with this kid.
Yeah, what's the deal with Cloud?
What's the deal with Cloud? That'll be our next
what
episode.
The name of this episode really is now.
Yeah, I think that it kind of works for me. And then they'll reference that throughout the game. There are a lot of times you'll hear overheard dialogue like, oh, that's that merc, oh, that mercenary who like did all the stuff. And it just, it's a way of contextualizing realizing a bunch of busy work side quests that aren't that fun. But it did kind of work for me narratively.
So then you guys, Cloud goes to sleep. The next chapter is entirely invented for the remake, and that is a chapter in which you take a bike ride to Jesse's house, and then you kind of like creep in and steal something,
and it's gone home for a second.
Yeah, man, it is like the most ornately rendered house with all these props and like details that must have cost a lot of time and money.
Yeah. You find out Jessie was an aspiring actress and that she gave it all up to become a terrorist with Avalanche, which is cool. It's cool to learn about Jessie.
It made me wonder if they intended to do more but ran out of time, because it seems strange that they would create that much detail for just like something you see for 30 seconds and then go.
I mean, it seems strange, but it's the whole game, man. Like, the whole game is like, why is there so much detail in this one sequence?
A lot of the game does feel that way. That is true.
They put in, so Jessie, they built her character up a little more, gave her a little more personality, gave her a dad that was fucked over by Shinra and is put in a coma because of Shinra stuff.
Which I don't think is in the original either. Like, I don't think you ever know Jessie's motivations, but here they've given them to you, and they also...
No, you don't know. Jessie isn't even in character in the original. She's just kind of a name and a few lines of dialogue.
She's there.
Right, so minor. Like, I mean, Jessie and Biggs and Wedge are all these kind of major characters that I really like.
Yeah, now I like them.
Well,
I really like them.
It's a combination of like good writing and acting and good characterization. So then you go on this mission, and basically you have to go and fight a bunch of Shinra dudes in like this abandoned reactor thing, and then you fight Roche, who is this kind of pointless anime character that they introduced, who loves his bike.
New guy.
I guess
I love that
someone
guy.
at Square was just like, I want a character who gets really horny for his bike, and so they brought in Roche.
And Cloud, come on. This is where they start introducing the homoeroticism. No, just kidding. They introduce it with Sephiroth.
Maddie, you played a different game in your head than the rest of us played.
And it was great. And I would like you to also consider playing it when you replay Final Fantasy VII Remake, because it's a more fun version of the game.
So then they get back and they parachute off of the top of Sector of Sector 7, which is amazing. Like this incredible parachuting scene. By the way, one of the cool things about this whole chapter is that it's like really the first look we get at the bourgeoisie of Midgar.
The middle class.
The upper middle class, literally the upper crust of Midgar. And you kind of see that they live this like idyllic suburban existence on top of the slums.
I guess we see that. Do we really see that? I wanted more of that. I didn't feel like we got enough.
Yeah, it would have been cool to see more for sure. But you see like the streets, and you see these suburban streets.
Sure.
So then you get back to Sector 7 slums, and then you go off on your next mission with Barrett and Tifa to go blow up the Sector 5 reactor.
So this sequence is, up until now, this game has been very controlled in the way that combat is playing out. And you don't have a 3-person party until now. You're playing in various versions of you, and then you and Tifa, or it's you and Barrett at the beginning, and then it's just you at various points.
You as Cloud here.
You as Cloud, yes, of course. I mean, we are all Cloud, aren't we?
Right.
And I think I was expecting this game at some point to give me a choice of like party members, and it never does. You never get to choose your party. And there are times even where you have a party member who isn't controllable by you. Like, they really control how everything works. It's much more controlled than I thought, which makes me curious about the follow-up and whether that's finally going to get into like choosing your party makeup, which is such a big part of the original game.
Well, so in the original game, you don't actually get to choose your party until afterwards. So you get this device called the PHS, which is referenced in those terminals in the Hojo dungeon, but you get that after you leave Midgar. So I think that's why. I think in later installments.
So it isn't until after Midgar in the original as well. I couldn't remember the particulars there.
Yep. That's how it works.
Makes sense. Got it.
Okay, so you get to Sector 5. This is where like the padding really starts, and this dungeon takes way longer than it needs to. It's like a whole, you have to go through the train tunnel because your train gets caught and blah, blah, blah. It's tons and tons of like filler stuff.
And if you're me, you get lost.
There's something I like in this mission where the sequence where you're underneath the plate, you're kind of going through the undercarriage of the plate on these kind of catwalks. There are a lot of kind of generic looking environments in this game, I will say. Like a lot of tunnels and catwalks.
That's why it's so easy to get lost, because you start being like, wasn't I just here? But it's a whole new area? Yeah.
I do like, there's a weird thing that I don't know if this was on purpose or like why they did this, but did you notice that when you're walking around in those catwalks and you look down on Midgar, it's like a kind of cruddy looking stretched out like 2D texture
Yeah.
that's just kind of made to look 3D. But to me, it really reminds me of the original game. Like it looks so much like a PS1 texture. And there are a lot of times actually where that same texture will come back up. And each time I was like, I like this. They could have probably made this look super like, done whatever the thing is they do to skyboxes now.
But they were busy making Tifa's face look that good. So they weren't focused on that.
I bet you're right. Like I bet all of the computing power is going towards the hair and the faces and all those polygons.
Yeah, I really wonder.
Yeah. Her little ponytail.
But I like it anyways. If it is a shortcut that they took, it's one that I like. And if they did it on purpose as a way of just being like, this kind of is just going to have a similar look, I like that too. I did enjoy
I think
that.
we'll find out for sure when the PC version comes out. So anyway, so you get to the Sector 5 and you have to, you get to the bottom there and you set the bomb to go off and then you have to fight through a dungeon, like the Airbuster dungeon, which is kind of a drag and just takes forever and is super repetitive where you're like slowly sabotaging the Airbuster, but it doesn't really matter on your way up to fight him.
So I read your tips, Jason.
Did you
Thank
follow
you
them?
for those. And so I knew not to do the, what's it called?
The M items. Yeah, those are a waste.
Yeah, the M
They're
items.
just useless items.
Pointless.
So you blow up the Airbuster and then all goes the way that it happens in the original, which is that Cloud falls off the catwalk and you think he's going to fall to his death, but nope, he lands smack in the middle of the church where Aerith plants flowers. And Aerith is like, oh, sup? And he's like, hey, sup? And then you fight Reno, which didn't happen in the original. In the original game, you just kind of ran away
He
from
does
Reno.
show up though, but
Yes.
you and Aerith run away.
Another very hot character,
Yes.
Reno.
Oh, yeah.
Exceptionally
Classic.
good-looking young man.
Very good duel against Reno, and then you fight your way up through to escape. You fight your way to the rooftops of the Sector 5 slums, and the Whispers appear, and they kind of force you to go because it seems like Aerith wants to go a different direction, and Cloud wants to, and the Whispers are like, nope, you can only go the way that the original game went.
So I'll say at this point that it was clear to me what was going on. Like, partly that I knew there was stuff at the ending of this game that was surprising, and also just because the Whispers were just such a new thing, and they were so evidently keeping things on a certain path and like interceding when things were about to dramatically change. I was like, okay, I pretty much get what's going on here. So the rest of the game is kind of just this process of being like, okay, how are we gonna get there, and how far are they gonna go?
That's a fun way.
Which was fun. I want to say I really liked this section. I like when Cloud meets Aerith because it's such an important relationship. She's such an important character for all kinds of reasons. She's like a major figure in just like video game
The plot
character.
also? Yeah.
In the
that
plot
too.
of this game. Oh yeah, absolutely. She's like the most important character in the plot, but also just in like the culture. Like she just is such a major character. And I never really bought her relationship with Cloud.
Me either.
And this gets back to the thing I was saying before, to like how I think this game does a good job of like slowly bringing Cloud in, like reeling him in from this place he's lost out in the fog, and they kind of reel him back to shore. And I think that the stuff with Aerith is really key to that. So is the stuff with Tifa, obviously, his childhood friend. He has all this history with her when we first meet her.
Right, and she knew him before he was traumatized, so
Exactly.
she has a different way of anchoring him. Whereas Aerith is more like meeting this guy and being like, what is this guy's friggin' deal? Like, why is he like this?
Which is super true, and it goes the other way too. So with Cloud, I get the sense there's so much expectation on him, and he doesn't even really know who he is anymore, and he's all messed up. And when he's hanging out with Tifa, he so doesn't want to talk to her. He's like she's really reaching out to him, and she's saying, I remember you, remember this thing you said, like, are you still the person that you want to be? Will you help me? Like, can you say that you'll help me? And he's like, yeah, but also, Jesus, this is a lot.
And like, I'm a failure and I've failed in ways I don't want to admit to you fully. And like, the more I agree to with Tifa, the more she's going to figure out that I'm a fraud.
Right, because she knows me so well. And a thing I really got from these scenes with Aerith is that for the first time I understood why Cloud would be drawn to Aerith, and it's because she doesn't know him. And she's just this totally new person, and she's just like, hey man, who are you? What's your deal? And a lot of their early interactions are her just kind of saying, oh yeah, you're so quiet, you're such a strong guy, whatever, you're my bodyguard now, we're gonna roll together. And she's so like easygoing, and she knows everybody, and she's this really just like kind of easy to hang out with person that she shows him kind of for the first time what it would be like to just
be normal.
Yeah, be normal, to just not have to
But also she has her own traumas, which are hinted at as well, where
Sure.
like she's clearly got a lot of shit going on that she doesn't want to tell Cloud, but that's
Right.
kind of okay with Cloud because he's like, same. So they both get to
Right.
just have a weird, horrible secret and like sort of allude to it in each other's case and like have that be something that draws them together, even as they both don't want to reveal to one another what their full deal
Right.
is. And I think that helps their relationship a lot.
Well, Cloud doesn't know his full deal, but we
Well,
can
that's
get to
true,
that a
but he
little bit
still
later.
doesn't want to talk about Sephiroth and like talk about his traumas with anybody. You know,
The broader point stands. It's that both of these characters are new to one another, and he is
Yeah.
for the first time in a long time. They don't have any. She doesn't have any expectations for him. He's not working for her. Like, not really. It's kind of the bodyguard thing is kind of a joke. Like, they're not. She didn't hire him for like Barrett did. She's not an old childhood friend like Tifa was, and I liked that a lot. I thought that dynamic really worked.
Oh,
for
yeah.
me.
Well, so the other key part of this is that there's a certain point, I don't remember exactly when it happens, but Aerith mentions that her boyfriend, she used to date, her first boyfriend was in
Yes.
Soldier. And
Was in Soldier.
Cloud asks who he was, and when she says it, there's this great moment where it's just like this zap of a flashback and you don't hear the name because the name triggers something in Cloud, and the name that she mouths is Zack, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, so after this stuff in the church, you go out on the rooftops with Aerith, and this is probably my favorite sequence in the game, both because of the visuals and the way that like it looks as you're climbing these rooftops and seeing like the depth and breadth of Midgar, but also the banter between the two of them is just incredible stuff. For many of the reasons that you brought up, Kirk. So they get to Aerith's house and they meet Aerith's mom, which you find out later is more of a foster mom,
surrogate mom,
Elmira.
Man, this sequence wrecked me. I guess for reasons that we'll have to talk about after we talk about spoilers, but I actually really loved this. I loved how it looked. I loved the music during this sequence. It's a version of Aerith's theme. It's so beautiful.
Which sequence are you talking about? The rooftop?
No, when you're at her house, when you've gone to her house and you're meeting her mom, and just all of that. Like when you first see it for the first time, it's this beautiful green space in Midgar, and everything has been so brown and trashy.
Yeah, this
and the music that's playing
and
is
then
so
there's
gorgeous.
all these flowers, and it's just beautiful.
You just get a feeling that she lived here and this is her space. And I thought this whole sequence was really, really nice.
Yeah, there's a lot more because they turned Sector 5 slums into like this living, fleshed out town and added like an orphanage. And so you see a lot more of like Aerith. People know Aerith. And as you're walking by, they're like, oh, Aerith is back. And like she has a relationship with the orphanage owners. And it's very clear that she goes around and helps people all the time. It's cool stuff to see. So Elmira, her surrogate mom, her foster mom, says, hey, do whatever you're doing, get the fuck out of here and leave my daughter out of this. And
That's
you
basically
have
what she
to
said.
Sneak off in the middle of the night, and of course, as anyone who's played the
Which
original,
is just as
game
annoying
knows,
here as it was in the original.
no, it's actually easier here than it was in the original, I would say.
Yeah, I think it kind of is.
No, the best thing is this sequence. This is a stealth sequence, and if you fail it, you just have to start over, and it's amazing. I have a video that I almost posted. This video of this
you
where
can run into objects and stuff in this one, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, no, I know, and it starts you out. It's like in the hallway. You're like not really prepared for this. You've just done a bunch of story heavy stuff with almost no gameplay. And then one of those little tutorials pops up and it's like, okay, so in this sequence, you're going to have to sneak out. And so be careful. And then you can't even see in front of you. And there's like a fucking bucket like right in front of Cloud.
Kick over, pretty much guaranteed.
So you press forward and you definitely kick it over. And then Aerith comes out of the room like, what's going on? And then you have to wait forever while it restarts. I thought that it cracked me up. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, what? You could have at least
ridiculous.
given me a chance.
Yeah, one of the hallmarks of Final Fantasy. What's the deal with Final Fantasy? Is like these hand scripted moments that are just like created as these one-off things.
It does feel like they're fucking with you when they make that happen.
And then you sneak out, and of course you run into Aerith, and Aerith is like, hey, I'll help you
were
get
sneaking
home.
out. Yeah, which is a great character moment for her, even in the original,
Yes.
where like she just shows up and she's like, you really thought that was going to work? I'm coming with you, you dumbass. It's great.
And then you get to the Sector 7 slum. slums before you decide to go in, you run into Tifa, who is on a carriage going into the Wall Market, and you run up.
Which is like an absurd coincidence, by the way, that you run into her.
It's so Star Warsy.
It is. This is a very strange change because in the original, you just kind of see her go by and you two talk to each other and you're like, oh my God, she was kidnapped or something. And it's not until later that you found out she like intentionally let herself get into that situation. But in this one, you actually run up to her in the carriage, which is weird because how did the person driving the carriage not like turn around and see this?
Yeah, like how did you even get up there in time?
It's
and like
strange.
How is the guy driving the carriage not hearing Tifa be like, okay, so I'm here undercover.
Right.
Like,
Very
don't
strange.
worry about
Very
it.
strange. But yeah, Tifa
Doesn't really
explains
work.
that she's going after Don Corneo and she runs off. And then you guys get to Wall Market, which is the hedonistic playground of Midgar. So Wall Market is the thing that has probably changed most from the original game to now. Everything in Wall Market is very, very different, including
The cat is the same. There's that cat in front
And
of
the
one,
music.
the one story.
And that's what's
the music.
important.
The doll, the cat like statue that you're talking about is the same. There's new characters like Chocobo Sam and Mrs. M and whatever.
Love Chocobo
And,
Sam. Great voice. Chocobo Sam.
It's all so. One of the things that's most notably different is that in the original, you get there, you go to Don Corneo's mansion, and it is the bodyguards at the front of the mansion tell you won't be able to get in if you're not a woman, and so Aerith and Cloud go to a dress shop, and you're getting a dress for Aerith, like similar to the remake, but right away it's the plot line comes up that Cloud should get a dress for himself and dress up as a woman in order to get in.
Yeah, Aerith suggests it as soon as they talk to the bodyguards,
and
by
so,
the way. Like, she immediately turns away and she's like, cool. There's only one way to get past this, Cloud. You're going to need to wear a dress. And there's like one sentence of Cloud being like, what? And then he's just like, you're right. That's the only way. And it's like...
And there's a lot of strangeness. There's a lot of implication that like other people are cross-dressing too, including the guys at the gym. And you go on this whole like side quest line where you can go get accessories for your dress. You can go get some makeup.
You can go get makeup.
Whatever.
Yeah. It's very transphobic and homophobic in the original iteration as well. It's pretty gross.
It is. Yeah. So all of that stuff was kind of morphed and turned into a side quest that you do with Johnny, where you run around town and like kind of follow the same motions as the side quest chain in the original, except you're not actually getting stuff for your dress or whatever. And the dress stuff is changed entirely. So basically what happens is you go and you do side quests for either Chocobo Sam or Mrs. M in order to get yourself a new dress. And this is where the story kind of branches, because you can, based on your decisions, you can wind up with one or the other of the two characters being your kind of side quest giver. But yeah, you go do a bunch of side quests. You do a whole bunch of crazy things. Then you go fight in a Coliseum for a while and fight Hell House, who was one of my favorite moments in the game, was knowing that Hell House is like a random encounter in the original and seeing what they would do with like this ridiculous house looking thing, and hearing them in the Coliseum being like, and now Hell House. I like cracked up sitting in my couch.
Oh man,
it was so good.
This game, I mean, the original game totally toes this weird line between being this steampunk corporate, world where you're fighting against
political
soldiers.
Commentary,
Yeah, to then suddenly you're fighting against like weird looking like propeller things. And then, you're fighting a house that belches lava at you. And that the game doesn't care because it's like a PS1 game and it just all kind of holds together because it doesn't hold together. Like it just works.
Yeah,
where in this game, it still works. Like there are even times where like it's way later where you're going through like Shinra and you see they're like, here are our research specimens that you've been fighting. And you see like alongside the robots are those weird propeller, like alien looking things. And like these other aliens that are, or monsters that are, enemies from the original game that have been up-res for this game, but they're somehow explained away. But Hell House, I love that sequence. They're just like, and now, like, our reigning champion, a fucking huge house.
It's never
Like,
explained. It's never explained
No.
why that exists or how it exists.
and
or
because
anything.
it's the reigning champion. Don't worry about
right.
it.
It's a house, man. It's from hell.
And it's a great fight. It's like this fight where you have to use spells that, like, to fight its weaknesses. And
You got to really get to know Aerith's healing spells in that one, if you're me anyway.
Yeah, it was a tough fight. I think I lost that at least once.
So at the end of all these side quests, you wind up going to the Honeybee Inn after all. And this is where people who have played the original are probably like, oh, what's going to happen here? How are they going to do this? And it turns out to be this like totally wholesome like dance sequence where you are turned by this guy who runs the Honeybee Inn, who just like turns you into a woman. Yeah, Andrea Rodeo.
Yeah.
And he turns you into a woman, and he's just like there, like he makes this comment about gender being fluid, and it's just totally like trans positive in a way that I have never seen in a Japanese video game.
There's that, but also even before that, Cloud has to do the dance sequence when he's just in like normal Cloud attire, and even that is like the cutest thing I've ever seen, and maybe the cutest thing in the entire game is just like Cloud
or in the
dancing.
World. I mean, maybe the cutest thing in the world
is so adorable because just as a character, he's so buttoned up and he's so traumatized and so not in touch with his feelings or sense of self at all. And that's obviously just like a core problem that he's having. Like he does not know who he is. Cloud does not know what person he is, and that's who he is. So like this scene really hit me differently this time around because I was like the idea of Cloud exploring a different identity, like even in just sort of this playful way for the sake of a mission and being like, who am I? Like, what is manhood? What is like my sense of self currently? It just feels super different in the larger context of his story and is like way cooler, honestly, than it is in the original, where it's just like a gag line where it's like, well, Cloud is going to wear a dress for this part of the game because like, I don't know. But in this version, like you get to see Cloud like work through all those things, actually dance and like express more emotions than we've really seen him express through dancing, which is like, why would that happen? But then also to have this like queer positive narrative where Cloud is like getting in touch with himself is just like a cool layer to have for a character who's dealing with some serious shit, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this is my favorite part of the entire game. Like, I
rules.
loved this sequence. The dancing sequence specifically, like when he goes on stage and dances, there's really some interesting stuff. The part where you walk through Wall Market dressed, looking beautiful in this like amazing dress, looking
wearing
great. And all these people are remarking on how gorgeous you are and, oh, look at her. And it's really like putting you in this experience and in Cloud's shoes.
If you go up to, what's his name, Chadley, the Shinra intern or whatever, when you're wearing the dress, he like has some line where he's like, I don't even know how to express what I'm feeling in this moment. It's like adorable. Like everybody has like these certain lines they say to you if you're like wearing Cloud in a beautiful dress. It's great.
So I like that, but I love this dance minigame. I mean, it kills me for the reasons you say, Maddy, that you're watching Cloud do dance moves really well, like amazingly put together.
Why would he be good at it? But
right. Sure. But also he's not leading like Andrea Rodeo is leading, and so he seems a little bit like taken aback at times by like what's even happening, but it's so good. The music kills like during this entire sequence. It keeps going. It's like really involved. There's like four different songs.
Lasts a long time, yeah.
There's so many things that I like about it. One of them, man, I could go on and on and on about this section, but like the dance, like the gameplay is a little bit like the way that sometimes it obscures the prompt you're supposed to hit, but then the better you're doing, it keeps cutting out to Aerith in the audience, and she's just loving it, and she keeps being like, oh my god, you're killing it. Or if you mess up, she kind of laughs nervously, like if you're not doing that well. Like it changes based on how you're doing. Yes. And just the visuals of it, the choreography, this moment, I was like laughing my ass off. And it's the thing that I love so much about this game is these sequences where they didn't just add something extra or like reimagine something from the original. They went so overboard. Like someone had a grand vision for this. Someone was like, this sequence is going to be the most flat out thing I can put together, and we're going to make this whole thing like blow up in people's faces for like 10 minutes, and they're not even going to believe how awesome it is. And the whole time I was just sitting there being like, this rules. Like the music was just going, and I was like dancing and playing it.
So let's get through a couple more things. So you wind up
the game
going
is peaked though. That's all downhill from here. That was the best part.
It's terrible after this. No, it's not.
You get to Don Corneo. Don Corneo tells you Aerith and Tifa his evil plan, or Shinra's evil plan, which is to blow up Sector 7 and knock down the plate so it crushes everybody, and then blame Avalanche. Then comes the worst part of the game, which is just padding on padding. You fall into the sewers, you fight a boss, the sewers take forever, then you get up to the train graveyard.
There's nothing to even say about any of these quests.
It just all takes forever. And it's in the original game, it's over in like 2 minutes. And in this, it's over in 2 hours.
You know, the one thing that this has going for it is this is where they establish Tifa and Aerith's friendship. Is like
Right.
during this sequence,
That's
there are
true.
these side cutscenes where they'll talk, they'll help each other out, and that is nice. They could have done it somewhere else.
Yeah.
They didn't need
Right.
to make us go through the sewers and the. But
That's a good
yeah.
point. And they still keep little things in there, like when they all fall at one point in the sewers, not at the very beginning, like in the original, but at a totally different moment. Cloud still has to pick which of them he's going to
Yes.
wake up first. And you know that's going to add relationship points because this is a dating
Who
sim.
did you both pick?
I went with Aerith because I'm just playing. I'm playing it super traditional, but also I don't even know if it matters because
It does matter.
I think
we'll
it
get
does.
to it.
It does
No,
matter.
there's a thing.
Yeah, there's a couple little branches.
We'll get to it in a little bit. But
Jason, who did you wake up? Who did you wake up?
I don't even remember. I think Aerith.
Well,
I
who
don't-
are you picking? Who were you trying to
You
pick?
don't remember. I don't believe you.
I wasn't trying to pick either of them because I didn't think it mattered. But
Well, Kirk, who did you pick?
Tifa, obviously. Tifa all the way.
I think I went with Aerith. But anyway, so
I just want to be Tifa. I don't need to date.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
so you finally get to the pillar where the Turks are going to blow up the pillar itself and have the plate come crashing down. Then there's this cool thing that was totally invented for this, where you actually switch to Aerith's perspective and you play as her
Yeah.
rescuing Marlene from Seventh Heaven, which is really, really
Yeah, which
good.
I loved.
A lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah.
And you get to meet Sang, who is the leader of the Turks. Cool character. So you guys fight your way up the pillar. R.I.P. Jesse and Biggs. I guess Wedge survives in
I think
this time
not to
around.
skate over it too much. I think this whole sequence is extremely well done.
It's
like this,
incredible.
It is,
Yeah.
but there's something lost in that you haven't actually seen Jesse and Biggs in hours and hours, and I think that kind of takes away a little bit of the emotional impact from losing them, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, those characters were fleshed out a little bit, but wait, I haven't seen them in so long.
I mean, I didn't feel that way. I still cried when the plate fell, and I was like, this is so much more moving. And then playing the original version, it goes by so freaking quickly that it almost doesn't feel like as big of a moment as it should feel.
Right.
And in this version, it's like they drag it out, and there were some moments where I was like, this is almost borderline like emotionally manipulative
Oh,
in terms of
definitely.
like
People are-
how much they're bringing the pain
Yes.
with the plate falling and the extent to which it can't be stopped. But, you know, I cried anyway. I loved it. And I was like, this is like really showing you how horrific this is and how many people are going to die and like all the destruction that's happening. And also it's all going to be blamed on Avalanche, but it like lets you really hate Shinra. And the original, it just goes by so much faster that it just doesn't really feel the same.
Yeah, I was talking about specifically Jesse and Biggs'
Those characters' deaths. Yeah. I mean, I still was really sad about it.
Yeah, it's sad, but
Yeah.
it does lack, I think, an impact, especially for people who haven't played the original. But anyway, so you get to the top, and it's all really well done. You fight Reno and Rude. They blow up the tower.
Yep.
They're kind of like these reluctant villains who are like, do we really have to do this? But you know what? I'm going to do it anyway because it's my job, and it's interesting. It's an interesting approach.
And if we don't do it, somebody else will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, unconvinced Turks, by the way. Not a convincing rationale for the atrocities that
still
you're committing.
bad
No,
guys.
not at all.
I mean,
For committing genocide on a bunch of poor people. So Tifa, Cloud, and Barrett make it out before the plate falls, but the plate does fall, and Aerith is kidnapped by Shinra and presumably taken
Right.
to Shinra HQ. So then lots of sad stuff happens. There's some diversions. Eventually you wind up getting back to Aerith's house to go find Marlene, because Aerith is supposedly taken Marlene there, and it turns out Marlene is there. And then you find out Aerith's backstory. You find out she is the last Cetra, the last ancient. And then so Maddy, I don't know if you know this, but so when you're asleep at Aerith's house, you have this dream sequence, and then you will either
Yes.
see Aerith, Tifa, or I forget if there's someone else, maybe Jesse. So the dream sequence is based on the choices you make. So that's what I was talking about earlier. I got Aerith's also.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I
That's
got
cool.
Aerith's also, and she was like, "Don't fall in love with me," and I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I'll try." So lots of backstory, and then there's some other stuff that happens. A whole unnecessary diversion where you have to like go back into the sewers and fight the Abzu boss again, and like run into Don Corneo again for Leslie,
wasn't into
and it
it,
tries to
honestly.
like make you care about this random ass dude Leslie and his like backstory, and it's just like, what
There are
is this?
people out there who like him, and I am not
Really?
one of
Really?
them. I was like, this doesn't need to be in the game.
It reminded me so much of Final Fantasy 15, which I guess I won't be specific, but there's like a time where this character dies in Final Fantasy 15. There's this time in that game where this guy dies and everyone acts like it matters. And it's
Yeah.
like, that guy, I can't believe he died. Oh, we're so sad. And that's our motivation to go take it to the bad guy. And I was like, who?
Yeah.
And this felt that way to me. I was like, is this guy? Like, what? Why am I doing
I was
this?
just like annoyed at him, and then he like takes out the necklace, and he's like, "It's because my girlfriend left me, and she's dead." And I was like, "Dude, what?
What?
What is your deal, man? I don't even want to talk to you anymore."
Yeah. But
I hated
anyway,
all
so
of it.
then you finally, and then you can do a bunch more side quests if you want. Some of them are,
I did all
guess,
of them.
okay. Yeah, I did all of them too. You have to like unlock chocobo routes, and like there's a whole bunch of shit. Find some treasure. I did them all too. I don't know if any of them are really worth it.
They don't.
But anyway, so then finally, Cloud and Barrett and Tifa get to go climb up the tower and go to Shinra HQ. And then there's super long sequence where you're climbing up the tower, a lot of battles, a lot of vistas, a lot of really cool, like just perspective shots, amazing looking scenes of where you see all of Midgar, which is pretty cool. But again, it transforms what was like 2 seconds in the original game to like a 2-hour extravaganza. So you climb the tower, you see all these beautiful sights and sounds, and Aerith and Tifa and Barrett and Cloud have a lot of fun little bonding moments on the way, and they're all kind of nervous because it's like, what are we going to find when we get there? And then you get up there, and almost immediately things are different than the original, where the original you kind of bust into Shinra HQ right away. Here you start off in a parking garage, and eventually you fight your way back up, and then you can decide, just like you can in the original, whether to climb the 59 flights of stairs or take the elevator. I chose to take the elevator. Did either of you guys do the stairs?
I took the stairs. I took
stairs. I took the elevator.
What? The stairs is so great. You guys don't even know. So like at first you can run up the stairs, like you can use the run button, but like as time goes on, it stops letting you do that, and you have to just walk. So funny. And like there's still all of the dialogue where you run out of breath, and like no matter what you do, you have to just walk. And there are points where the game just like forces you to stop, and you're like, I can't go anymore. And like everyone's fighting just like they are in the original game. They're all making like little side comments at each other. And they like keep some of the same lines where Barrett is like talking to the stairs and Tifa makes fun of him for it. And I don't know. It's great.
In the original game, I think she calls him a retard. That's not in the
that is not in there anymore. Okay. They have taken that out. Yay. It's not 1997 anymore.
Here's a fun little observation that probably only I noticed, or only like a dozen hardcore fans noticed. In the original game, the elevator floors, you go in the elevator and it randomly stops at floors, and then you fight battles. They're all random numbers. It'll be like 13, 23, 27, 34, whatever. In the remake, it's all just multiples of 10. So it's like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. It's strange. It's different. In the remake also, they added some fun stuff. Like you have this fun encounter where like this random dude is on the phone and walks in and then is just like talking on the phone, doesn't even notice the three of you, and then walks out. So the elevator is actually pretty fun in this one too. But anyway, so then you get to Shinra HQ, and there's a lot of cool, very different stuff in this, like a virtual museum of like Shinra history, and like a virtual tour of like the Promised Land that they want to create. It's a lot of cool stuff in there.
I liked everything about Shinra HQ.
Even Tifa walking around on the ceiling and like trying to get that key card. You like that?
No, yeah. I mean, I liked that sequence as part of everything because it wasn't a combat sequence. Like I just liked that it was this dumb, like it was dumb, right? It's just like a puzzle sequence that is completely linear and requires no thought. And it's kind of it's not the only time you control Tifa, I guess. But I was like, really? Is this gonna be the only time we control Tifa, is to just like jump on a thing and then like land in a thing and like whatever, because she's the lightest of the three of them?
And like climb a bunch of ladders.
That was so stupid.
But what I liked about that is more just like a broader thing with this whole section, is that there's so much different stuff going on here, and it's all very fun. Like it's all pretty silly. Each individual thing is just as silly as Tifa climbing around on the ceiling, but it isn't just more go to a place and then there's some enemies and then you fight them and then you fight some enemies. Yeah, it adds a lot of variety, and it's just all new stuff. Like it feels so fresh. Like you're getting toward the end of the game, which feels exciting. And it's like, here's Shinra. Here's what's new. Like you're learning all this stuff about Shinra. Like you said, the interactive museum stuff is just amazing. When you when you go into that,
the biggest momentum killer comes when you fall into the dungeon that takes forever.
Yeah, but before that, when you do the like 3D like flashback to what the planet used to look like, and they're in this sort of virtual
VR
world.
experience that all three of you have to enter into.
It's amazing. Like that's maybe the most amazing looking thing in the whole game. It looks like a movie. I mean, like whatever team did that spent a lot of money and time on it. They're just these
really good
parts
stuff.
of that sequence that are really incredible. And just getting to see Midgar really blown out and like from an aerial view, like it just really gives you a good sense of everything, which I guess this whole remake kind of does in a way that the original game didn't, that I really liked. It made me, I'm going to go replay the original, probably like after we finish recording this. Oh yeah, I've got it. I have it up on like the eShop for Switch.
That's what I got it on.
And I'll have all this in my head as I do that, just because it gives me such a better mental image of all of this, which is such a great service.
Yep. I just got to the golden saucer in my playthrough of the original. Anyway, so eventually you get to Aerith and Hojo, and you see Genova, and Genova is like a lot bigger in this. There's a lot of new stuff in this that is different from the original.
Oh
you
yeah,
meet Red
way
13.
more flashbacks from Cloud.
You fight a boss fight after meeting Red 13, just like you do in the original, same boss, but then you wind up in Hojo's lab and you fight through this entire massive dungeon that is like involves switching parties. It's basically the final dungeon of the game.
It's a maze.
It includes the toughest fight in the game, which is Tifa and Aerith fighting 5 bloodhounds, which is by far the most difficult encounter that you have in the game.
It's funny, I just beat that fight. I had trouble with plenty of fights in this game, but I kept thinking back. I was like, what was the one that Jason said in his tips post was going to be really hard? And I never got to it. I kept just being
I wonder
like,
if they patched the game. I didn't
I wonder
see
too,
that
yeah.
either.
It's definitely possible because a lot of people complain
But
about
I also had built it up so much in my head because people kept talking about how hard it was going to
Yeah,
be. And so
that's
I was
possible.
like armed to the teeth for that fight.
this whole sequence is kind of a momentum killer, as you said, though again it's another dungeon that does let us get to know Red 13,
which is nice.
It's also the final dungeon. Like they felt like they needed to have a final dungeon.
Yeah,
and
it's such a video game thing of like you're in a test facility as a bad guy overlooks you and is like, and now fight this slightly harder boss. Ha, 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 ha. All part of my plan. I'm like, fuck
but
off.
I will say, so the final boss of this game, that kind of sword like thing that goes around, that like it's like a fish.
Yeah. Wait,
thing.
it's called a swordipede. We cannot neglect the incredible name that this thing has.
So that's another example of a regular enemy in the original getting turned into a boss fight. There are a bunch of those in this. So you once you get through all of that, you have to fight Genova, and that is another strange thing because you don't actually fight Genova until much later. Well, not much later, but a little bit later in the original. So you fight Genova. It's this fun fight involving positioning and tentacles, but again, totally not in the original game. Then there's a whole sequence where like President Shinra is like hanging off a rooftop and you rescue him. And then in the original game, by the way, Barrett decides to rescue him, and then like there's some tension and he's thinking about shooting him, and then Sephiroth comes out and stabs him and then stabs Barrett, and then the Whispers revive Barrett because Barrett can't die.
At a certain point we're gonna have to just talk about the original game. Maybe this is the cutoff point.
I think maybe we're there. What do you think?
Yeah.
So in the original game, Shinra section at least, what happens is your party is kidnapped and you end up in jail, and then you wake up and the doors are open and there's a trail of blood and it's this big mystery, and you go up the stairs and you find President Shinra just dead at his desk.
Has been stabbed.
So you don't know what happened until you see the sword, and Cloud is like, Sephiroth?
There's only
then
one
it's like
person who could use that
only
sword.
Sephiroth uses that sword. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's basically, so given that that's kind of where the FF7, the original, ends off, I think, can we say at this point that this is like the moment where we are now?
This is the cutoff point?
Sure, we can spoil the original.
This is the cutoff point. Like, we're an hour in, we're going to spoil stuff about Final Fantasy VII now.
The original.
Like, even just to say, like, Barrett doesn't die in Final Fantasy VII.
He doesn't die. I mean, that is, I guess,
is
a spoiler.
That a spoiler?
Right. But he doesn't die here either.
don't
But
know.
let's say, so from here on out, Final Fantasy VII spoilers, everything goes.
So the Whispers decided that he's not supposed to die, or they know he's not supposed to die, so they
Right.
revive him. It's all very strange, and you're like, what is going on? And then you go through the same as the original, where like the party gets split up. Cloud fights Rufus on a rooftop, which also happens in the original. You also fight his dog. In the remake, I actually really love that fight. It's like a really cool, just tricky, gimmicky fight that I really enjoyed. Then downstairs, there's the tank fight with Aerith, Barrett, and Tifa, and that was kind of like a bullet spongy, less fun fight, but that also happens in the original, so I guess they felt the need to just like do this boss gauntlet just like in the original game. And then you all wind up escaping. Most of the party winds up on a truck, and Cloud comes out on his motorcycle and is a super badass,
Extremely good cutscene.
and then you have to do this whole motorcycle sequence that took me forever. I lost it like 4 times. It was such a pain in the ass.
I found it weirdly hard too. too. I think because you can't heal Cloud during those moments. Like you have to wait until the predetermined moments when he gets to be healed, and you have to just conserve
it's very easy
your
to get
energy
hit
until
by
then.
the bosses like flames and shit. Yeah.
Let me tell you how I played it. I think it was one of the bosses there. I kicked it down to easy because I was just over it and I wanted to see the ending.
Yeah, and you were like, I'm almost at the end of the
That's
game.
allowed.
Yeah, and I was like, this keeps going. So I kicked it down to easy, and then there's no point at which you can kick it back for a while. So I actually did that whole vehicle segment on easy.
Fair enough.
And it was great because it was fine. I was like,
That's
whatever.
funny.
They made it, don't they make it skippable? Like if you replay that section, they're like, and you can skip that shitty part on your motorcycle.
And
Yeah.
hard mode, yeah. And yeah,
Really?
yeah. Or
That's
like the
funny.
chapter select.
Because they
section, yeah.
acknowledge that it's not good. So I was actually like, oh, this is fine. I later saw people complaining about it and didn't even know it was a problem.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, even if they know it's not good, they feel like they have to have it in there because it's in the original. That's
It's in
one of
the
those
original.
things where like people will be mad if you didn't have the bike chopping sequence. And in the original,
have
it
been
was
that
like gimmicky, but kind of like, oh, cool new stuff that they're doing. But anyway, so then you get to the end of the highway, and people who played the original probably thought at this point, okay, how are they going to end this game in a satisfying fashion when in the original?
Don't you think that people who played the original are already thinking, I know exactly what's going to happen? Or at least I was.
No.
So I guess you weren't. I want to know that. So what?
My
that's what you were
experience was
thinking?
playing the game before anyone else had played it, so I had no
Exactly.
idea. Like I didn't have the experience of reading like people's hints and teases and seeing people talk about it,
Or
in
knowing it
another
would
way.
surprise you.
So I thought that.
What did you think about the whispers or like what was
Well,
happening
so
there?
I got
Yeah,
to this
yeah.
point. Well, so Aerith does explain at some point, like the whispers keep things on track.
Right, and Red 13 does
Or
too.
Red 13
yeah.
says that. Yeah, someone says that like in
Sure.
an enigmatic way. But I had no idea that it was going to go the way it did. So I thought it was going to be like a Sephiroth fight, and then you would go off to into the world, and it would be like now to chase Sephiroth. I did not expect what was about to happen. So what happens is
okay.
you get to the end of the highway. There's some really cool, just like cinematography where you see the party staring at like this big gray portal that Sephiroth has created. And man, here is where some things get left open to interpretation because Nomura, this is very Nomura sequence. This is where the game goes full
But I don't think
Kingdom
he wrote
Hearts.
it. Like people keep saying that, but I don't think this guy came up with this stuff. Like it feels.
So you get in.
I don't know who
so,
did.
So Sephiroth invites you, or talks about like how
He's like, come find me.
Yeah, he says, "Come find me." Like he opens up this portal, and you get there, and it's like the whispers of time have manifested as these giant like arbiters of fate or whatever, and they're like big mystery
Yeah.
like ghost alien characters, and you have to go
Well,
around
so
and fight
did
them.
you assess one of those in the fight
Yeah,
and notice what
it's
it
like
says?
protecting time with your gun or something like that, right?
Well, no, it says this is a person from a future timeline who is protecting
Person
it.
from a future time.
Interesting.
Yeah, it
I don't
implies
think I
that they're-
assessed one that said that.
Oh, well, when I implied them, that's what they say. And the implication to me was these are actually characters from the original game manifesting as these sort of godlike beings who are being powered by destiny. Like one of them,
Bizarre.
and one of them fights kind of like Cloud. Like the red one has a sword and it fights kind of like Cloud. And then one of them
Interesting.
is, so I haven't done a ton of like looking
of
into
it,
this,
yeah.
but that's my sense is that that's what they are. But yeah, the description was like, this is a person from a future timeline that is trying to protect it happening.
I thought it said it was an entity from a future timeline, so I just interpreted it as like an actual ghost because part of the context here is that suddenly your party starts seeing all these things so the whole game you've been seeing Cloud's flashbacks, and a lot of them are like Nibelheim and stuff that actually happened in his past. Now suddenly you start seeing things that are supposed to happen in the future, like you see Aerith dying. You see
There
Aerith
were
dying.
some before, right? I saw Aerith, like her praying thing
Her praying,
before she gets
right.
killed.
Yeah, when was that flashback? Was that earlier in the game?
At some point in the game, I remember seeing it and
I
thinking,
think it's like 75% of the way through.
Okay,
It's not
so-
like super early on, but anybody who's played the original game sees that motion and is like, that's when Aerith is about to die.
Okay, got
but
it.
I don't think
So-
anybody else would think that. Like
So-
somebody who's playing Remake for the first time wouldn't see that flashback and be like, oh, wait, that's Aerith dying. Would they? Because I don't think they show it.
Right, which is one of the reasons you need to have played the original to understand what's going on.
I just don't agree with that take, but keep
so
going.
yeah, so then you get to this part, and then you start seeing these flashes, and you see this flashback of Red 13 and his cubs running through like a desert-y area, and someone says like this is a vision of like what would happen if things go wrong or something like that. And what's crazy is if you haven't played the original, you probably have no idea what they're talking about. But if you have, you know that exact shot is the very end of Final Fantasy VII's epilogue, and it's set like 500 years in the future, and the implication is that the meteor has come to Earth and destroyed all of humanity, because that's the end of Final Fantasy VII is left a little bit open to interpretation. There's a lot to unravel there because Advent Children kind of like makes that not canon. So who knows what is actually canon with the ending of Final Fantasy VII? But that's the implication from the epilogue, is that humanity is extinct by the planet and meteor.
I think you could read this and it's all canon. I don't remember Advent Children that well, but it's basically like Sephiroth has copies of himself, right? And he's trying to change what happened.
No, well, so the implication would be that at the end of the original Final Fantasy VII, Sephiroth's plan to destroy the Earth with meteor actually works, and that's why humanity is gone. But Advent Children is set 2 years after the original, so everyone's still around. Humanity's still around. So that's the big question. So you see these flashes, and someone's like, that is a vision of like a bad future. And then you wind up fighting the Whispers of Fate. You destroy them, and then you change the future, apparently. And so then a few interesting things happen. Suddenly you meet this guy with black hair and a giant sword. And if you haven't played the original, you're probably like, who the fuck is that? But if you have played the originals, you're like, or seen some of the Final Fantasy VII canon,
you're racking your brain and you're thinking, is that guy in the originals? And then you're Googling it and you're saying, oh, right, it's Zack Fair.
It's Zack. He is in the originals, but only in like an optional scene that you can see if you go to Gonzaga, which is like this optional city. But anyway, so this is Zack, and Zack is Cloud's original buddy. Oh no, he's also in the original flashbacks. What am I talking about? Because Cloud winds up pretending to be him in like his super fucked up traumatic backstory, and the flashbacks you see of him.
It's like why he wears that sleeveless turtleneck the whole time.
And the sword, and he wears Zack's sword. But anyway, so you wind up seeing this kind of scene of Zack, and if you played Crisis Core or know the story, you know that this is where Zack dies. He is killed by a bunch of Shinra army men and saves Cloud basically, and then Cloud stumbles to Midgar and takes his sword in his honor. But then after the timeline, after you fight the Whispers of Fate and defeat them, suddenly we see Zack again, and Zack survives, and he's walking to Midgar with Cloud, and
carrying
they're both
Cloud.
very much alive. And then we see this shot of Stamp, who is this dog that you see throughout the game, but it's a different breed of dog, so which kind of implies that it's an alternate timeline that you're seeing. And then you see Aerith and everyone in the original I guess timeline or whatever, like right after defeating the Whispers of Fate, they walk off into Midgar, and Aerith is like looking up, and she seems disturbed, and she's like, something's wrong here, I miss the steel sky of Midgar. And then you see this ridiculous Chiron that is like, the unknown journey will continue, and the whole implication of this, and we will see what actually happens, but the implication is that from here on out, it is not a remake anymore, and they've changed the timeline, and they can do anything they want with the story.
So here's my question. I think that this is not actually a remake of Final Fantasy VII, or at least that there's an interpretation of this game that it is not a remake, that it is in fact called Final Fantasy VII Remake as a subtitle, in that the next one could be called Final Fantasy VII
Rebirth.
What Dreams May Come. You know what I mean? Like Rebirth, sure. Because it is concerned with remaking the events of the opening part of Final Fantasy VII, but it's actually a sequel, because it's possible that Sephiroth is the same Sephiroth from Advent Children and from FF7, and he is traveling through time and using his new ability to go into like whatever the dimensional, like the Dark Tower, the crux of all dimensions, in order to like undo what happened at the end of FF7 and give himself whatever ending it is that he actually wants. So this is actually like in that meta timeline taking place after that. And at this point, we've now reached the point where now everybody is now way past anything that happened in the original timeline, because we've like surpassed it, which is kind of fascinating, because there was so much discussion of whether this should be called Final Fantasy Remake Chapter 1. But now that we've finished it could just be that that's just an actual conscious fake out. And this is actually 100%. Just a sequel. There's some quote, is it Nomura, who was like, this is a game that fans have been waiting, 23 years to play. And that quote kind of implies that this is a sequel to Final Fantasy VII, that people have been waiting for that long.
Yeah, I mean, the question is it really a sequel, or are we going to see in the next game? Like, we have no idea what might happen. Like, it might be just like the original events just like slightly altered. It might be major alterations. Like,
but I mean, with what Sephiroth is doing, that would be really surprising. I mean, sure, anything is possible.
Also, like, the whole story doesn't even work anymore if Zack is alive. Like, Cloud's entire identity and like
that seems like an alternate timeline. That's the thing.
Well, exactly. But if the game is going to explore like multiple timelines concurrently, for example, then do we see a timeline where Zack is alive and what that looks like? like, and Cloud is going to be a
Right.
completely different person in that version
Yeah.
of the world.
Well, it would
maybe
make-
he can't defeat Sephiroth or whatever. Like, I don't know what that intention is.
It would make no
but-
sense to have him join the original timeline that we
Right.
see in the game because Cloud has a Buster Sword. By the way, Maddie, I have a great theory that you're going to love, which is that the second entry in this game series is going to pull a Kingdom Hearts 2, and the first 5 hours you'll play as Zack instead of Cloud.
Oh, I was thinking that might happen too.
I would be so into that. I actually think that would work really well. And that was one of the thoughts that I had too, where I was just like, this is going to be like every Final Fantasy VII fan fiction that people have been writing for years, where like, what if Zack was alive and he got to date Tifa and Aerith, and like they just like do a weird mindfuck thing where like they create that reality for you where they're like, Zack's here and like he's going to do a bunch of stuff that isn't the same as what Cloud would do, but it's going to be like a parallel version of that. And
yes.
that would be weird.
Yes.
That would be fun and weird.
Let me just say for the record that I love this, by the way. I'm so happy that they're doing something totally batshit and
Yeah.
different. Like, I didn't want to
Yeah.
play a 1-to-1 remake of the original.
No. Yeah, completely agree.
I mean, I wouldn't have been mad at it, but like, it's way cooler that they're doing something incredibly strange and that they're just messing around with the timeline.
Agree. And the parallel here is, for me anyway, so people keep saying, like, I was initially thinking, oh, this is hurting my head the way that Westworld did.
Yes.
Just because you see the dog and you're like, oh, that's the dog looks different. And if you notice that, which I did notice that because I guess I watched Westworld and trained myself to notice when things are
notice
different,
things.
to look
Yeah.
for parallel dimensions. But actually, the thing that this is closest to for me, and the reason that I like it and think it works, is it reminds me of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek reboot.
I was going to say Lost, so it's
Yeah.
funny that you say another J.J. Abrams thing.
It's nothing like Lost. We can't talk about that.
No, because, well, no, specifically the Star Trek thing, though, because what that movie did, and I like that first movie, especially like the first, 45 minutes of that first J.J. Abrams Star Trek. It's really good. But I love the way that they have their cake and they eat it too, because they establish a parallel timeline in canon. They even bring over Spock so that they can like really tie it in and both be respectful to the original and give fans something, but tell their own story in a way that's actually supported by what's happening in the story. And they're doing the same thing here. Like they can do all this fanfic stuff, but because Sephiroth is actually enacting some sort of master plan to change the nature of fate and destiny and to like write some new reality, we also get a new story that they're hopefully going to tell more of. I don't want to do too much of just like imagining alternate scenarios. Like too much alternate destiny or timeline shit for me loses me just because I'm like, well, which one matters? Like what matters anymore? I want to stick with these main characters, with Cloud and Tifa and Barrett.
Yeah,
and
we
Aerith.
like them now, so
Yeah,
you want to
like-
stick with those guys. Yeah.
But I'm excited as hell for all the things they could do. Granted, there's 1,000 ways they could screw it up. I mean, including the game could just never come out. Like the next game could just not come out forever. But I'm very, very excited after that finale for sure.
So, I have a lot of questions, not just story-wise, but also mechanically, because the original, this remake feels like such a complete mechanical advance that, like, by the end, you've advanced all the top-level spells and summons. You've gotten
Right.
Bahamut and Shiva and Leviathan and whatever, and your level is super high. Like, what are they going to do for the next game? Are you just going to start from scratch? Are you going to carry this over and they'll try to find new ways to advance you? It's going to feel weird either way, and it's going to feel a little unsatisfying either way, I think.
Well, you'll probably start out as Zack, just like you said.
Right,
So then you'll
right.
have to level up that guy, and by the time you've done that, when you get the other characters
God.
back again,
Oh, God.
you'll just,
They're-
upgrade their
yeah.
weapons, and they'll already be really high level, and they'll just do that.
Yeah, but story-wise, I mean, the more interesting conversation is like, what the hell are they going to do with this story? And I think it's safe to say that like you're going to be going to a lot of the same places.
Yes.
They've already hinted at Wutai and the Golden Saucer and Cosmo Canyon and et cetera, et cetera. And I imagine that they'll introduce some of the characters in the same way because I think people want to see some of that stuff again. Like people want to see the intro of people want to see the Junon like parade
for sure.
and Cosmo Canyon going there and meeting Bugenhagen and like the Rocket Town and the Leaning Rocket and like you really want to see that stuff in 3D. But I think maybe things will start changing in subtle ways or ways that in which that like similar ways to the original game. I don't know. One thing that I know for sure is that they will not be doing a world map. They're going to find a way to not do a world map.
I think like I agree that I think they're going to go to a lot of the same places. We're going to see a lot of the same events, definitely meet the same characters. I think that things will start to change because my interpretation here, maybe this isn't even an interpretation, this is just clear, is that the Whispers are now not a factor. Is that right? Like
they're dead.
We defeated them, they're gone, and now...
Yeah, even so in the alternate timeline, like Zack, they were surrounding Midgar, and then Zack saw them all
and
disappear.
then suddenly they weren't.
Yes.
Right. So they are now gone, which means that I think we're going to gradually get more dramatic changes. And I could see that at some point down the road, something really major is different. Like a whole town is just a crater now or something, or just like a thing is totally
someone dies
changed.
Who shouldn't
right.
die.
Someone dies who shouldn't have, like earlier or later.
Yeah,
right.
different person dies. Yeah.
They'll probably try to rescue Aerith. They'll probably have Aerith survive.
This is, I think this is a big question. Let's just get to it now. Do you think that Aerith is going to die in this game?
That's such a tough question.
I actually do, because so much of the way that she talks and so much of her place in the plot is about her dying and her sacrifice and like her conception of self is that. So I think it would be really tough for the story to still work and have the impact it's supposed to have if she doesn't. But I say that not having any freaking clue what the story looks like at this point, and I've only ever seen the other one. So I guess it's easy for me to say that. But there's so much foreshadowing of it even in the first game. Like there's so much stuff in Remake where she, like that dream sequence, which apparently not everyone gets, but the dream sequence where she's like, don't fall in love with me, Cloud. Like basically every single line she says to Cloud in that dream sequence is, I'm going to die. It's going to happen to me. I will die soon. Like it's like all of her lines are that. So it's hard for me to take it any other way. Like even if the Whispers are defeated, I still am like, clearly this is what we're all moving towards, you know?
Well, yes. So I agree with that. But the question of whether or not she's actually going to die is slightly different, only because her death is the event of this game. And they're going to make a ton of hay out of that event. I mean, they've been, like you said, they've foreshadowed 1,000 ways to Sunday. They're going to keep doing that. We're definitely going to get to that chamber. We're going to get to the sequence where she's like praying, where Sephiroth drops down. That's all going to happen. Is she going to die in the same way at the same place? That I actually kind of doubt. I think that it's going to work very differently if she does. And there's also this whole question of like returning to the planet and like whether Aerith becoming the planet is actually dead at all and whether she wakes up and comes back.
Which is like a question Advent Children wrestles with in a really weird way. That movie's so freaking weird.
Yeah, I have like a fever. I barely remember that movie.
You should rewatch it. We should all rewatch it.
That would be kind of fun to do like a live watch where we record it and put it in the bonus feed or something.
So yeah, I mean, it would definitely take away a lot of the emotional impact of the game if they didn't kill her. But so I have to rewatch the ending of the remake because there's a part where like Aerith is reluctant to go in, and it's not clear if like there's a part where she's reluctant to go into the portal, and it's not clear if she knows that like going in would lead to her death eventually, or going in would lead to her not dying eventually. Because there's a lot of implication that she knows exactly what's going on and she can see the future. In this game, there's a lot of implication that she has like a lot of knowledge that she's not sharing with everyone. So it makes me wonder, like it's not really clear. Maybe she didn't want to go in because she knew what was supposed to happen and she doesn't know what's going to happen now. Like there's a lot of questions, but it's worth noting. I think I saw an interview with Kitase, the producer of the game and a longtime Final Fantasy developer, saying that like the next games are mostly going to stick to the script of what we know. So anyone who's expecting like some drastically different game, I don't think that's what we're going to see.
But also, was that just a fake out too?
Could be.
Like,
yeah,
what even? What?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like, I think there's no question that this is going to largely follow the same trajectory of Final Fantasy VII, but there are going to be so many differences that when they get to the one thing that's the most dramatic thing that's like ever happened in a video game,
that's the big question.
Loss that so many people couldn't deal with, that they tried to mod Aerith into the game, that there are like all these people, these theories for years and years and years that Aerith lives. You can find ways to save her if you just level up this one material or do this side quest. Like the fact that, I mean, it's one of the most defining things in all of games culture. There's no way that now that they've established that other things can happen, that they're not going to mess with that. And probably, I mean, given that by the time we get there, who knows what'll be going on in the broader, this meta story of Sephiroth hacking the past and changing timelines, anything could happen. Like, and she'll probably die, whatever. It's like not that, that's not the most interesting thing. And I bet it won't be at the time either. It'll be much more like, what does it mean for her to die, or for her to make a sacrifice, or to become one with the planet again? And
or will she come back? It would be a real cop-out if they added a way to let you revive her in some
If she
some
came
form.
back, it wouldn't quite be fair.
maybe, but maybe not. It could work. There could be a way that it works.
I've certainly seen people say like Cloud could die in that moment, and like that's a pretty popular
That'd be
theory
pretty
going
good.
around. And then you just play as somebody else for the rest of the game. Maybe
know-
Aerith even.
Well, you do. I mean, you do play as Tifa for a while when Cloud is in a coma. But
Right.
another theory I've seen is that what actually what happens in Aerith's death sequence is that right before Sephiroth comes out and kills her, he tries to get Cloud to kill her, and Cloud comes really close to killing her. I've seen a theory that what if Cloud actually kills her in this game? Then that would be wild.
Oh, man.
Or if he just kills himself in that moment in some way. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could
It's
go
just
there.
amazing that it's leaving us with all these questions, and I love that fact. Like, I love that. And yeah, Kirk, I had the same thought. That my immediate thought when I finished the game was like, oh my god, it's called Final Fantasy VII Remake because this is the only game that's the remake, and like the next parts are not going to be remakes anymore. And I was like, wow, this title thing, it actually makes sense. I get it now. Even if it is still misleading to people like your friend Maddy, who expected to play the entire game.
Well, he's just playing the original game, which again, this whole game is really just the greatest advertisement for Final Fantasy VII, the original ever, because like so many people got to the end and they felt like it was a cliffhanger, and maybe they were just intrigued by it or whatever, enjoyed the game and were just intrigued by the mysteries.
It's all a
and
marketing
they're just playing the
strategy.
original game again, and it's like
I was
great.
honestly surprised that it wasn't in the top downloads on the eShop on Switch. I was like, I feel like everyone must want to. I want to play it so bad after finishing the game.
Well, I bet
Yeah.
most people play it on PS4 because they just played the remake on
Probably,
PS4.
yeah.
Oh, I guess that's
Or
true.
they get it
That's
on
true.
PC. I mean, it's on so many platforms, but I
Every
would be
possible
curious to
platform.
know if it's
Or you
just
can even play it on your phone now. Like it's got a pretty good iOS version. All right, so I think that is it. Do you guys want to give any final thoughts? Why don't we each give our final thoughts on the Final Fantasy VII Remake?
I liked this game a lot. We've talked about the combat. I've
Cool.
said the things about it that I sort of didn't love. It did grow on me, the combat, by the end. I will say I liked it more at the end of the game. I'm guessing if I tried hard mode, I would appreciate more things about it. There are fundamental things about it that I don't like that I'll never like. But so the act of actually playing it, at least the combat is like not my favorite thing, but everything else about this game, and I include other gameplay things in it too, all the goofy mini games that, oh my God, we didn't talk about it, but where you have to like move the levers together. I think I tweeted that was the worst thing that I've ever loved. Like I loved
We
that
talked about
sequence.
it a couple of weeks ago on the show.
Maybe we
Yeah,
did.
we
Okay.
did. It's terrible though.
I loved it, and it was so bad. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff like that in the game. It's so goofy, it's so silly. And then there are just these sequences, so many of them. Tifa thanking the cat that Wedge is alive. Like we there's so much detail that we had to move quickly through just to cover the events of the whole story. But there's so many moments where they just drill down and they grabbed it, and we're like, okay, we're gonna have Tifa thank the cat, and the cat is gonna meow at her. You're welcome, basically, like in cat language. Or the dancing sequence, we're going to blow it out into this like incredibly produced, like and choreographed thing with like lights and music. It's going to be so freaking cool. And that over and over and over again, that by the end, it was amazing to me. Like the whole experience of playing it, it felt improbable and wonderful, and I loved it. And even if they never make another one, I'll be super glad that I played it.
It's still great. Yeah. I feel similar.
Maddy, what are your final thoughts?
So for me, this game is a big deal because I didn't even like Final Fantasy VII that much at all. Like I found a lot of it super tedious. There were certainly things about it that I thought were interesting, but I always thought it was kind of overrated but I also finally played it after like not playing it for many years and having it overhyped to me. So I just like had a bad relationship with the game. I thought Tifa and Aerith were really tedious as well, just as characters, and I didn't think the love triangle was cool. So like playing this game has been such a redemption story in my own mind of like the kinds of characterizations that I wanted to see, with I guess the exception of Barrett, who I still feel like the game fails in some ways, and I'm sort of hoping that subsequent games can like improve on that characterization. And there's certainly a lot of room there, but like the stuff they do with Tifa and Aerith in this game and Cloud is so powerful to me, and it makes replaying the original game a lot better, and it helps me forgive some of the shakiness of the translation and just the lack of characterization in certain areas, or just irritating things. Like when Tifa and Aerith and Cloud and Barrett all get kidnapped and they're in the prison cells, there's like all these awkward territorial moments between Tifa and Aerith in the dialogue that are just like, who fucking cares? Like, don't make the female characters do this. Like, I hate that stuff, and they just don't do it in this version. And I love that. I'm just like, finally I can like a Final Fantasy VII thing, and like, that rules, and I wasn't expecting it at all. I thought that this was going to be a situation where we all played this game and I hated it, and I was just going to have to put up with it and be like,
Right,
I don't
be the
have any
bummer.
nostalgic feelings about this game, so I hate it. But you don't need them. It's just really good. I think it's a great game.
You might actually hate it more if you have too many of those nostalgic
I think
feelings.
so. Yeah, I think that this game is maybe
It's
for people
possible.
like me who are like, the original's fine.
It's for people
You
who
know?
want something
Right.
different. And it's so ballsy of Square Enix to release this game and be like, hey, we're remaking Final Fantasy VII just like you want it. But
Psych.
No, we're not.
and it feels like it's commenting on the nature of remakes. I wrote about this in my review. It feels like the whispers themselves are like this meta commentary on a whole lot of different things, like the developers and the fans. And
They
it's
can
like
certainly be read that way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
it's very. I read it as like them as the developers being like, nope, we have to go back and fix this. We have to go around and fix everything, and that like Cloud and Aerith and Tifa, by killing them, just like freed the developers to do what they wanted. But
Right.
it could also be read as like the fan expectations, the hardcore fans who are like, no, we have to hold you to this. And yeah, it's so ballsy, and I love it. I love that they did this, that they pulled this off.
Yeah.
But like, there was this whole thing hanging over me as I played it that it was like, it just felt like I was playing an incomplete game because I know the original story so well, and the whole time I was just like, damn, I wish I could see Cosmo Canyon and Junon and all this other stuff that I know is going to be coming in like down the road, like who knows when. I think that Square did a disservice to everybody by not saying up front, hey, here is how many games are going to be in this thing, and like here is
Yeah,
our
and, like, when
estimated
we
timeline.
Like doing
for
the
when they're
Marvel
coming
thing
out.
where they stand
Yeah.
there with a board behind them.
I think that would have really helped, and it's possible. I mean, what they told me at E3 last year was that they didn't actually know, and like, okay, fair
Yeah,
enough. If
of
you
course.
really don't
I'm
know,
guessing that's why. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like, still make a fucking decision and stick to it, because like,
They need a Kevin
just-
Feige. They just don't have a Kevin
Yeah,
Feige.
they really do, because just
Yeah.
having that ambiguity in the nature of this project, I think really hurts it. And on one hand, it leaves us asking questions, but like, we could have still been asking the same number of questions, even knowing that like, okay, there are going to be 3 games and they're each going to come out every 2 years, and maybe there's some window for flexibility in case they have to slip or something like that. But like, still, just not even having any clue when the next one will even show up is very like difficult.
Yeah.
And
It makes me more skeptical about them continuing to be as
yeah,
good
like,
as
will they ever
this one.
actually finish this thing? Is it going to be like a George R. R. Martin thing where it's never actually finished, like, because they have no pages?
Yeah, or like a Star Wars situation where like one person starts out with a certain idea in mind and then they didn't have a clear roadmap, and that didn't really
Yeah,
work.
that's the problem with these stories that are just like left unfinished, and without a clear roadmap for everybody. It's unfortunate
Though,
that
I mean, we have this beautiful moment in this where these established characters discover the fact that they're trapped within a story that has already been authored for them, and they kill the people who are controlling them and break their way out, and now the future is unwritten. And while I agree and I like share all of the concerns about what may happen and am enjoying imagining what might happen, I also, I really do mean that if it ended right now, just knowing that these characters that so many people have loved for so many years have now broken free of the story that they were trapped within for
Yes.
this hellish two plus decades, and
Yeah.
now can like write their own destiny. Just knowing that makes me very happy, and like
Well, that is-
I'm actually happy in this current state, and maybe we'll be happier now than I will be
you
at any
are.
later point when the later games actually
So
come
yeah,
out.
just enjoy it now. Yeah.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying.
it is probably more fun to imagine what might be than it is to actually experience it. That's all.
And to
all
enjoy the
often
moment, and
case.
to enjoy the moment that they all earned for themselves by killing that god or whatever it was they did.
So now it is time for us to defeat the whispers of fate and break free of this podcast.
It is. It is.
Oh, all right.
Kirk and Maddy, it was fun to spill the beans together, and we will of
was.
course be running a Beanscast every month or so for subscribers.
And hey, thank you to
Yeah.
everybody who's become a member to listen to this episode and just to support us making this show. We really appreciate it.
Okay, So in that case, keep an eye out, and yeah, we will see you next time.
All right, see you both next time.
Bye.
Triple Click is produced by Jason Schreier, Maddy Myers, and me, Kirk Hamilton. I edit and mix the show and also wrote our theme music. Our show art is by Tom DJ. Triple Click is a proud member of the Maximum Fun Podcast Network, and if you like our show, we hope you'll head over to MaximumFun.org/join and consider becoming a member. Doing so helps support us and gets you access to an exclusive Triple Click episode each month. Find us online at tripleclickpodcast.com, on Twitter at tripleclickpod, and send email to tripleclick@maximumfun.org. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned. Audience supported.